Look, like getting Joe Flacco to the playoffs, like respect. Comeback player of the year, he came back from being a New York Jet, which is, like that's
which is somehow better than coming back from the dead.
I mean, what's harder to do?
Don't.
Like, anyway, it's a fair question. Is it not? No? Okay.
How many people in human history have come from being on the Jets to then being good elsewhere versus came back from the dead? You got Lazarus, you got Jesus, and then Damar Hamlin. So we got 3 that we know of.
Flacco. All right, anyways.
Welcome to the opening bell of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That, once again, is Brad Spielberger here for part 2 of our series where we're looking at free agency and the NFL draft. We're seeing how they are marrying together for these teams. We went through the NFC first. Now we are doing the AFC. So if you missed last episode or if your team just is in the AFC and you didn't care about the NFC, what we are doing is I have Brad on because he is a free agent expert. We're going to go through every single team for every single division and determine whether they're going to be more interested in filling their needs through free agency or the draft. Probably a little bit of both, but where do the priorities lie? Maybe hitting one position in free agency, it's a little bit stronger there. Waiting for the draft for another because it's a little bit stronger there. So we're building offseason strategies here. Brad, how you doing, my friend?
Doing fantastic. And the AFC, I think, is a little bit more interesting. Some more top-heavy rosters, some big decisions to be made. So everyone chasing Pat Mahomes, and best of luck in that continued endeavor.
Yeah, as everyone knows, I, of course, planned that out, well-planned that here on this podcast. We often do a great job of planning things before the show. Obviously, that's a little bit of an inside joke because, Brad, if you listen all the way to the end of our podcast, Connor and I get there and we go, yeah, what do you want to do next episode? And we basically just plan out the podcast on the podcast. So the fact that you said that we actually saved the better half of the NFL for part 2, I'll take credit for it. Of course. I knew that all along.
Behind the curtain. You guys giving a little, letting the fans in on the process, the NFL SE infamous process.
We let them know how the sausage is made, and it is simply the SpongeBob meme of just fire everywhere, papers in the air, screaming chaos, and that's what it is. But hopefully it comes out pretty good when the episodes actually start. So let's get into it. We'll start the same way we did for the NFC. We will go direction-based. We'll go east, north, south, and west when it comes to the divisions. So we start with the AFC East, and let's start with the New York Jets. When you look at the New York Jets, this is a team that their goals changed very, very quickly. About, 4 plays into last season when Aaron Rodgers got hurt. But Rodgers, we assume, is going to be back and fully healthy to start this season. What are the Jets going to do here? Because it felt like they really had the defense to compete last year. A couple pieces might be on their way out. What are we doing here in free agency for the Jets? Yeah,
the defense was no question a championship caliber unit. I mean, the issue was their assistant general manager, Aaron Rodgers, really struggled last offseason too. You had Alan Lazard, CJ Uzama. Well, not Uzama last offseason. But anyway, you had a lot of signings that did not work out particularly well. And they happened to be very close friends of Aaron Rodgers. So I think they are going to try to continue to add on offense. Offensive line, Dwayne Brown is no longer a solution. You got a bunch of guys coming off injury. Center, I think they will spend money at center. And then the big one for me is they may not spend a ton because they're going to probably prioritize backup quarterback because last year was just embarrassing. I mean, the owner came out and said we didn't have a backup quarterback, which is a nice thing to say about Zach Wilson before you trade him for a 2025 sixth. But yeah,
number 2 overall pick, Zach Wilson, by the way, just in case anybody forgot there.
Who was the future, was actually going to take back the reins in 2025 and do like a weird Jordan Love like inverse type of situation.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah. That was bound to happen. It still will, actually.
It still could happen. Yeah. But anyway, so not a ton because I think they just need to worry about, they're probably going to lose Bryce Huff to free agency. Will McDonald's going to have to step up and play a bigger role. I think backup quarterback, interior offensive line, and then tertiary receivers, right? Right now you have Garrett Wilson and absolutely nothing else. I put in the article earlier this week that Devontae Adams, obviously everyone's going to make the connection. I don't think he leaves the Raiders now. It's obviously a trade, not free agency. But every wide receiver on the Jets roster, not named Garrett Wilson, combined for like 600 yards on 40 catches with with 3 touchdown receptions the entire year. So they have one guy on offense in the pass catching game.
Yeah. I mean, it's why when we do mock drafts for the Jets, it's very often offensive tackle because to get a serviceable one, the one that the Jets would really need, it cost them a lot of money. And a lot of those guys that they actually would need just don't hit the market. Really rarely happens. So we often mock them an offensive lineman at number 10. But if we don't, it's a wide receiver for the reasons that you mentioned. So I think it makes a lot of sense to say, okay, let's add a couple of veteran offensive line pieces just so we're not caught with our pants down, if you will, when the season begins. And if something does not go exactly perfect or to plan. But wide receiver as well needs to be something that's on the table. So you at least give yourself that flexibility to pick whatever offensive tackle is available at pick number 10. Because remember, they don't have that second round pick. Yeah, thankfully they have their first round pick because they needed it for the Rodgers trade. But the other part of that stipulation was they lose their second round pick to the Green Bay Packers. So that part of that strategy does make sense. What about the Buffalo Bills? Let's do the Bills next. This is a team that has been in a winning window for a little bit here. They just have not been able to get over the hump. And I feel bad for the Bills because they have a really damn good team in the Patrick Mahomes era. And just they have been so close so many times and the ball just has not bounced their way. Sure, you can point to things that they've needed to do better, but perfection is such a unrealistic bar to hold a team to. And I feel like the Bills have been good enough multiple years, but now they're sitting tail end of that winning window, probably. How do they continue to go all in? What are they going to do this year?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, Stephon Diggs, I don't think is going anywhere, but has a massive cap hit right now, about $28 million. Von Miller is the tough one, has some guarantees already, but was basically, not really playing this past season. Maybe he gets healthier with another offseason, but I don't think it's super common for, 35-year-old edge rushers to, bounce back up from an ACL in the second year. So they're in a tough spot. They have one of the worst cap situations in the NFL right now. Yes, they can restructure deals. They can move Josh Allen's money around and some other top-end players, maybe extend to Deion Dawkins, but I don't think they can be that active. I really don't. They made their splashes with a Von Miller, extending a Stephon Diggs, bringing in some pieces last year quietly, like a Deontay Hardy and some of the kind of, ancillary, again, pieces there. They need to hit on a draft class. They need to get healthy. Matt Milano, Trey White, those players step up and be healthier. I don't think they're going to be very active. I just don't know how they can be.
Yeah. The Von Miller one's tough. Can they get out of that at all whatsoever? What's the flexibility there with this contract?
They can, and they will, find a way, but it's still going to kill you to a degree. I mean, a post June 1 release, you clear 6.7 mil, so you're still carrying that hit the whole offseason. Maybe they try to go to him and reduce the money in some capacity, but it's probably Von Miller's last substantial deal. So why would he not want 10.7 mil in guaranteed money on what is likely his last major earning year of his career? And yeah, I was right. He'll be 35 years old next year. So it's unfortunate because the worst part about it too is like we saw the vision when the first 8 games when he was in Buffalo, they were third for us in pressure rate without bringing extra guys, on a blitz. Like they had what we thought could have been the team to get it done. And he goes down before the playoffs and the rest is history. But yeah, they are in the windows with Josh Allen is his career, but there are more likely windows, and this one is closing, if not closed.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good way to put it. As long as you have Josh Allen and he's playing at this type of level, you can win. Like you could beat anybody, but it does. For as much as quarterback is the biggest piece of the puzzle, it is a team game, and you clearly need a good team around you to win. I look at wide receiver for this team. You mentioned Stephon Diggs. He's probably still going to be around, but Gabe Davis, a free agent. There's a lot of things that they probably need to do in free agency, but like you mentioned, they don't really have the funds to do it. That, to me, probably locks in wide receiver for one of their top couple of picks because they got a lot of picks here. They have first, second, third, fourth, I guess 2 5ths, 3 6. So it's a lot of picks, but it's a lot of really late picks there in the 6th round. So maybe you're right. This is kind of like a eat your vegetables, go get some young guys. Probably got to fill out the depth of the roster. But I look at wide receiver as something that I don't imagine they're going to be able to spend a lot of money on in free agency, that they have to get better at if they want to extend this winning window at least one more year. So probably wide receiver remains the primary need for this team.
What about
the Patriot? Yeah, go ahead.
I have to ask you, he's your guy. So Gabe Davis pending free agent, Justin Shorter, Gator, 5th round pick last year. I think he was kind of like an IR stash. Can he fill that big body deep threat role, or they got to keep looking?
I don't think so. No. I mean, Justin Shorter was somebody who I was really excited about when he transferred over to Florida. I think he was a former 5-star when he was coming from Penn State, and we were all pretty excited about him. But he just never really developed into a dominant contested catch guy or really showed the speed level that you wanted to see, and that was competing in the SEC. So it would be a shock for me if he were able to step into a major full-time contributing role for this team. So depth player, sure. But I don't think it's somebody that you could lean on. I think you still got to prioritize that in the draft. Let's go to the Patriots. Patriots are next. No Bill Belichick. This is the first draft without Bill Belichick in over 20 years. And much words have been said about Bill Belichick, the general manager, and a lot of them have not been kind, especially over the last half decade. So when you look at where this team is with the Patriots, how much flexibility do they have with Elliott Wolf and now Gerard Mayo kind of making the calls there about how they're going to build this team out?
Yeah, they're going to be, I think, interesting because I think we see a repeat, and I know this might scare some people in New England, of the 2021 offseason where you're drafting a rookie quarterback. They took Mac Jones that year, obviously. Your top 3 this year, and they're top 5 in the NFL in cap space. And so, look, we can probably mock what they did. Frankly, for that offseason to get, Matthew Judon, a very good piece on a great contract for what they got him for. Was Hunter Henry a game changer? No, but he's been a solid tight end, over the course of that contract. Jalen Mills was a DB that made some plays early on. So anyway, I think they're going to be super aggressive. I think they're going to spend a lot, and it's going to be the same idea of we're trying to build out a roster so that a rookie quarterback isn't coming in and struggling, to get off the ground. The issue is they just don't have much talent at all at receiver, and they're out quietly for how bad their offense was. All their best offensive players are pending free agents. Trent Brown, Mike Onwenu, Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry. Like, of the few guys that did actually make plays and make a difference on this offense are all on the way out the door. So I think they're going to be super aggressive. I think you will see them spend.
Are they bringing any of those guys back, though? You said they got a lot of money.
They do. It's weird. I don't know why Onwenu wouldn't get done already, and they refuse to just leave him at right tackle. They always kind of move him around, left guard, right tackle. I'm sure there are plenty of teams that view him as a guard only and probably as a gap scheme fit guy only as well. But he's probably the only one. They'll bring back like a Jabril Peppers, I'm sure. I didn't even mention Kyle. Now we're going defense. Jabril Peppers, Kyle Duggar, both free agents as well. They're with Marte Mapu. All 3 of those guys kind of interchangeable. It's just funny where it's like, this is one of the worst teams in the NFL, and like almost all the notable good players besides I think Christian Barmore is probably the best guy on the team at this point. Like those guys are all pending free agent. Christian Gonzalez, who has the oiliest hips in the class, per me.
No.
Fact.
No. Devon Witherspoon, don't do this.
This is the rehashing of the Las Vegas late night oily hips debate.
I was going to say, for those who are very confused, Brad and I were in a heated debate with CB1, and he said that Christian Gonzalez had oilier hips, the oiliest hips that he's ever seen with fluidity. And I said, excuse me, sir, Devon Witherspoon was sitting right there. So
yeah, and the dealer at the blackjack table said, you guys are bizarre. So So anyway,
the blackjack table said you have 20, and then you said hit.
yeah. He said hit me and then tell this guy about Christian Gonzalez's hips. So yeah, they'll bring some back, but I think you will see them, be in a lot of markets. Josh Uchi's also a pending free agent. Like, I'm going to just sit here and just name off their entire roster.
You basically are at this point.
Yeah, I know. I think they're going to spend a lot. I really, really do. But my guess is they go more heavy towards offense this time, where they kind of went, I guess, besides the tight ends, they went defense.
Do you have any targets that you like on offense for this team? Like, have you gone through exercises where you say, like, okay, they have a lot of money to spend, obviously a lot of holes to fill, some offensive linemen, certainly some skill position players. You think they're going to handle quarterback in the top 3, but are there any players on the offensive side of the ball when you say, all right, they're probably going to lean this direction, they got a lot of money, this is somebody maybe they could keep their eye on? Basically, I'm asking, is this a situation where you think they'll have the opportunity to get some more trench players in free agency, or do you think they're going to go to more skill position players? Because that will probably supplement what they end up doing in rounds 2 and 3. They don't have a ton of flexible picks. It's basically just their regularly scheduled 7 picks, but that would help for like the day 2 projection of what this team might do.
No, it's a very good point. I think they will probably try to get more skill position right away. Even if they address it again, maybe the early 2nd round pick, you take one of the receivers that falls right in that range. I feel like we always seem to get like a very good playmaker in the 33 to 40 range. But, they like guys that can separate, like maybe a Marquise Brown high end, who I still thought was a good fluid route runner that could create separation at the intermediate and deep levels. You want a bigger body that can block, like a Gabe Davis maybe. Like, I think they'll make sure they have something there. But I don't know. They had Devontae Parker already, who's supposed to be, the contested catch guy. Didn't really do it last year. And then offensive line, we talked about. They could just bring their own guys back. Maybe a Kevin Dotson is intriguing to them. A Curtis Samuel maybe is kind of a gadget type player. I think those names will be all on their radar. I don't know, maybe Dalton Schultz, if he doesn't stay in Houston, they go back to the tight end well once again and get a high floor player there, or a Noah Fant type as a move guy. Like, I think those names are interesting to watch because they can't go into the draft and bring in this quarterback and be like, all right, you got, Devontae Parker and Tyquan Thornton or whatever is left of him. Like, good luck.
Would not be an ideal situation. If Jaden Daniels ends up going to the Patriots, he would go from Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. to Devontae Parker and, like you said, whatever is left of Tyquan Thornton. Not ideal. Last team in this division is the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins, it feels like, have made big splashes over the last couple of years. You're trading for Tyreek Hill, you're trading for Jalen Ramsey, you're bringing in a lot of different guys to up the speed on this team. Where are we right now with the Dolphins in terms of what they could do in free agency, and then some of the team needs that they might have still going into the draft?
Yeah, this is the team that I think people just don't want to talk about how bad their situation is. They got aggressive and they tried to win on the Tua rookie contract. And we're now hearing rumblings of they could give him a massive deal. All right, you have Connor Williams, who did get hurt, but was a first-rate center, a great fit, can get to the second level really well. Robert Hunt, I think, is one of the better guards in the NFL, also a pending free agent. Christian Wilkins is one of the best interior defensive linemen. Per our numbers, the most defensive stops in the entire NFL, I want to say, over the last 2 years. And also had pass rush, career year in every aspect of pass rushing. So you have all those names. There's more, too, that I'm forgetting. Andrew Van Ginkel is a good rotational piece. And you're already paying top market for Bradley Chubb and Tyreek Hill and Xavier Howard. And you got to extend Javon Holland to, I think, a really strong deal. They're in a tough spot, man. They're interesting. So, yeah, I doubt they do much in free agency. I think it's a battle of just trying to retain their own guys.
So what you're saying is they might force themselves to be more in on quarterback over the next 2 years. Because if Tua's not the guy and your roster's already strapped, then you're either moving on from Tua or you're literally tearing everything down to the studs because they probably. I mean, what's the deal that Tua's going to get at this point? You said rumored massive deal, and I know it's kind of like putting you on the spot, so you don't have to give me an exact number. But to me, that's crazy, right? To me, that's I don't know how you could sit here and say that Tua would be worth tanking the rest of your roster. I don't think that he's that kind of a quarterback. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why his agent or him would take less than 50 per year. That's a floor for me.
I don't think Miami can pay that the way that they're currently at, right?
Yeah, I was thinking they can. It's just okay, so then, you still have basically two receivers on the team. And by receivers, I mean pass catching options. All due respect to Durham Smythe, who I do love, is a good.
Didn't Tyreek Hill talk about potentially retiring too? Do we believe that?
Oh, Teron Armstead, I don't even think you can view him as a viable, even if he doesn't retire. It's all right, this guy's going to play 500. If he plays 500 snaps, we're happy.
No, not Armstead. Not Armstead, because I agree with you. Didn't Tyreek Hill say I'm going to play 1 or 2 more years and then I'm done?
He said when this contract ends, he's done, which has 2 years left on it. So, yeah.
All right, a little bit of time. And
it's Waddle's a stud, but yeah, Cedric Wilson, I assume they move on or redo his deal again, or I mentioned anyway. But again, Armstead though, Armstead might actually retire. So no, they're in a very, very tough spot, and maybe they move on from some of these guys. Xavier Howard, I think is interesting. He missed a bunch of time, and you traded for Ramsey, who also missed a bunch of time. But yeah, their window was this year, and they the frozen tundra ate them up.
It's probably offensive line still in the first round for this team.
I would go that way. Yeah.
But depending on who they don't bring back in free agency, yeah, the Teron Armstead situation alone probably still makes it offensive line for them because they don't have a lot of picks. They got a first round pick, they got a second round pick, and then they don't pick again until the 5th round. They
had 4 picks last year too.
They go pick 21.
4 draft picks. Yeah.
They're the new Les Snead.
Hey.
Well, not true. We went over the last episode. You said Les always has a lot of picks at the end. You're right.
They're the new New Orleans Saints. They're Mickey Loomis in their way.
There you go. Yeah. Yes.
Drew Brees is the original team.
They're Drew Breesing it up. No, okay. All right. That That one is a better parallel for sure. Okay, let's move on. Let's do AFC North. Let's talk about the Ravens. Ravens, another team that's clearly in a winning window. Lamar Jackson just won his second MVP. They put a really nice defense together, but they lose Mike McDonald. Like, they had some veterans on the defense that really stepped up. The receiver room is probably not what it needs to be. The offensive line might have some question marks moving forward. What's the Ravens situation? How flexible is this team for what they're going to put on the field next year? And then what do they need to focus on in the draft?
Yeah, so they're going to lose so much defensive talent, not just Mike McDonald, but you have Justin Madubuike, Patrick Queen, both veteran edge rushers, and Clowney and Van Noy. Geno Stone had like 6-7 picks this year. You're working through a lot of question marks there. They did kind of make a splash last year with like an Odell Beckham deal for a 1-year, massive $15 million flyer. I don't think they'll be as aggressive. You hit on Zay. I think we saw Odafe Owe once he got healthy, play some good ball, and at least be like a high-end number 2 edge rusher type player, a guy you can kind of build around. But yeah, I think it's again more about retaining your own pieces and then just trying to hit in the draft, because they're going to lose some talent, and it's going to be interesting to see how that defense plays without Mike McDonald just cooking up diabolical stuff. Like on paper,
Right.
the talent last year wasn't that good on paper, and they were the best defense in the NFL.
One of them.
Yeah.
So how much of that did they bring back? Do they have the money to bring any of those guys back?
I think Madubuike is probably the only big one. Like, I think Patrick Queen is as good as gone. Yeah, I think Patrick Queen is as good as gone somewhere else because they can't pay Roquan and him. And he's been good. He's a good pass rusher now, too. They really use that a ton. They've leaned into that a lot. And he can cover it well enough at this stage. So, I think those guys, I think those two are the big decisions. But, Clowney's going to go back to looking for kind of better deals. Had a really, really good season.
And he should. He's got to capitalize on it for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So I can see like Van Noy come back. Probably, felt like it was a good home for him, a good fit. More of a rotational piece anyway. The big thing for me is, all right, if John Simpson is a guard pending free agent, and then you mentioned, like, Ronnie Stanley was rotating series with Patrick McCarry. Like that, I will mock a tackle to the Ravens in every mock draft I do from now until the end of April. I think it's one of my most confident, I'll say it right now, it's my most confident position to team match in the first round is tackle to the Baltimore Ravens.
Damn.
Lock it in.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's all we needed. We're moving on. Cincinnati Bengals. That's all we're looking for the teams is you to emphatically give us a lock. And when we got one, that's it. No more words need to be said. Cincinnati Bengals. Burrow's obviously hurt this year, so didn't go the way that it could have. They lose Brian Callahan, their offensive coordinator. They keep Lou Anarumo, their defensive coordinator. A couple of free agents, big time free agents. T. Higgins is up. DJ Reader is up, right? Some guys like that. Jonah Williams. Some flexibility on this team in some key positions. What's the Bengals' outlook? I feel like traditionally the Bengals are seen as a team that does not spend a lot in free agency. Like they're not a very go out and burn all their money type of a team. But in the Burrow window, I feel like they've done that more than they have in the past. So it feels like they're more susceptible to it, or at least open to it. So what do you think about this team where they're currently at? Yeah,
they did such a good job in those early Burrow years, bringing in a Trey Hendrickson, a Mike Hilton, Chidobe Awuzie, Von Bell, all those pieces that were so good. I think you'll see whether they keep or not with DJ Reader, I think is a big inflection point. They need interior defensive line. If they don't, I feel like they'll definitely be interesting at 18. They maybe go that direction. I had them circled too. Like I feel like they're going to want to bring in a tight end. Maybe it's not Dalton Schultz level, but if you can get a discount on like your Gerald Everett type players of the world, like your kind of lower mid-tier tight end market, they just haven't had anything there. Like Tanner Hudson was decent last year as like a check down outlet, make the first guy miss, and then rumble. Great. Yeah, rumble, stumble. Oh, is he? Wait, where do you play?
Buccaneer great.
Buccaneers legend. Oh, yeah, Tanner Hudson. Good shout. Yeah, so
preseason legend, dude. Legend in Tampa.
Yeah, Cam Brate passed on just some high-level traits. Yeah, so I used to love Cam Brate. What a guy. Harvard grad.
Dude, still do. He's a Bucs legend, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Only played in one jersey for his entire career.
Chase was Supreme. But anyway,
no, wait, that's not true. I think he was with the Saints. I think it's not true. Take that back.
Yeah, okay, he definitely put somewhere.
Ryan put air horns over that.
Yeah, just block that out. So I think it's going to be like you tag T. Higgins, which takes up $21 million right away, and then DJ Reader could get like a Dalvin Tomlinson type deal. even with the injury. We'll see how healthy he is. Maybe they wait and they don't have to do that. But that market is so strong for those guys. They're all getting paid these days. So the interesting one to me, I think Jonah Williams probably tries to go elsewhere and just says, look, someone will make me a left tackle. I know I'm a right tackle if I come back to Cincinnati. Do they go after like a Trent Brown, Jermaine Illuminor? Do they look tackle in the first round as well? So anyway, I think they will pick their spots. They'll make a couple small signings, not quite at the same level as years past, but because obviously Burrow is now the highest paid player in NFL history. But you are right; it's a good shout. They're not operating like the Bengals, of your mom and pop's generation. They're willing to make some moves because they know they're in a window right now.
Yeah, no, I like the tight end shout out because when I'm doing mock drafts for the Bengals, it's a lot of the needs that we mentioned here. It's potentially offensive tackle if Jonah Williams leaves. It's potentially interior defensive tackle if DJ Reader leaves. And then tight end seems to be an option. Like if Brock Bowers makes it 18 in mock drafts, it feels like he's always a lock to just go to Cincinnati. But I think their money might be better spent, like you said, going to get a new tight end in free agency, not thinking that they have to address that position in the first round or go all in on it, and really more focus on the trenches, whether you bring back one of those guys or not. It feels like I tend to like offensive tackle more for the Bengals at 18 than I do any other position. And I feel like that would be a good way to set it up. I mean, I'm looking at this right now. Am I correct here? Do they have 0 tight ends on the roster
probably
now
not,
for next year?
Irv Smith was a pending free agent. Hudson probably was too. Yeah, they probably have 0. Yeah,
Drew Sample and then Mitchell Wilcox are the 4.
Yeah,
that I see.
No, that's probably correct. So that is big. And like I get they're going to lead the NFL on 11 personnel most snaps, but look, Tyler Boyd's also a pending free agent. I think you saw his decline a little bit, and they drafted ahead of that. You bring in Charlie Jones, you bring in Andre Yashivich, who both kind of flashed when healthy as rookies. So Yashivich especially as a late round Ivy League guy. Jake Browning and Joe Burrow kind of liked him in the low red zone and in certain areas near the sideline. So. Yeah, I think tackle's a fascinating one in the first round for sure. And the beauty of the Bengals, too, over the last 20 years, they've probably traded like 3 times in the draft. Like their picks, their original slot picks, they're going to use that pick. And so you just have a good idea of all right, whoever's there, who's at the top of their board at whatever position, that's going to be the guy.
Yep. I think that's at least as much as I can remember. It feels like it's true with the Bengals. All right, let's go Cleveland Browns next. Let's go with the Cleveland Browns. Whirlwind of a team over the last couple of years, certainly since the Deshaun Watson trade and contract. Team made the playoffs last year, but just has not lived up to that investment with Deshaun Watson. It's one of the best rosters in the NFL to me on paper. Does it stay that way next season? What does their free agent outlook look like? Obviously, you're getting Nick Chubb back from that injury, but what are we talking about here when it comes to free agency for the Browns, who don't have a first-round pick, remember, because of the Deshaun Watson trade. So what they do in free agency does matter because they're going to be waiting so long to finally come on the clock when it comes to the draft.
Yeah, Andrew Berry is aggressive and wants to improve this roster. They were a team that didn't make a move at the deadline, but they were calling a bunch of teams for potential trades. Like they want to go, push their chips in right now. And I think there's also, it's not just like they're afraid. Like Stefanski and Berry, I think, are safe. I think there's been rumors they're going to sign an extension, and I think it's warranted.
Well, Stefanski just won Coach of the Year, so hopefully he's safe.
True, it's for the second time. Which let's not get into that. Yeah, I love the guy.
D'Amico should have won it. D'Amico should have won it.
Yeah, agreed.
D'Amico 100% should have won it.
Yeah, we're on the same page. Look, like getting Joe Flacco to the playoffs, respect, but
true. Yeah. Not saying he's slapdick or something, but D'Amico should have won it.
Right. Well, comeback player of the year, he came back from being a New York Jet, which is.
Which is somehow better than coming back from the dead,
from dying. I mean, what's harder to do?
Don't.
Anyway, it's a fair question. All right, is it not? No. Okay. So let's pivot. So anyway, I'm gonna ask this to Connor
the next episode he's on the pod. Hey, when he's like, oh yeah, Brad filled in, blah blah, I'll be like, oh, Brad actually posed a good question. Is it harder to go back from the dead? How many people in human history have come from being on the Jets to then being good elsewhere versus came back from the dead? You got Lazarus, you got Jesus,
You got Jesus. Yeah, developmental prospect.
You got no, wait, no. Dabo said Jesus would have been a 5-star.
No, Harbaugh said that. Yeah,
Harbaugh said that. Sorry, that could have very well been a Dabo quote. You gotta
for
give
sure,
it
for sure. Yeah.
And then DeMar Hamlin. So we got 3 that we know of.
Got Flacco. Yeah. All right. Anyway, so wow,
Jets fans are pissed at us.
You didn't see that coming. You didn't see that coming at all. Yeah, he'll love that one. I hope he listens. So yeah, the Browns. I think trenches for the Browns. You had this massive tackle issue all year. DeJuan Jones proved to be like one of the better draft picks of the year on a value standpoint. Not only because it was just good to get that talented of a player in the 4th round, but immediately Jack Conklin goes down. Jedrick Wills is fascinating, going into a 5th-year option. Can never really stay healthy. He's been fine. I think he gets kind of a bad rap in Cleveland, but certainly hasn't been like, extension candidate, like a win there. So I think O-line is interesting, and then D-line too. Zadarius Smith, I think they'll bring back, was way better than his sack production. Do not fall for the idea that Zadarius was bad last year. He was awesome. I watched his tape for free agency and was like, this guy still has juice, can play on the inside too. But I think they're going to keep going there. Like, just keep adding on the trenches. And then I know they traded for Elijah Moore. You draft Cedric Tillman, so you use your 2nd and 3rd round pick last year. And David Njoku had a great season. Amari's Amari. I just feel like they need, I don't even know what type of skill set it would be, but like I just think they need one more piece in that receiving core too.
Field stretcher, baby. Field stretcher. When we get to the middle of the 2nd round, like Roman Wilson, Xavier Worthy, like these dudes. I mean, Jamari Thrash, I think, would also be good on this team. Dudes who can stretch the field. That is missing from their receiver room, I think. So
that's a good shout. I think it's a great shout. Worthy would be fascinating to me too, because the space you would have with all the other weapons and a good run game, like Worthy on like end arounds and quick out screens and tunnel screens would be awesome.
Last team in this division, it's Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, above 500 because I don't know. Tomlin's got to deal with the devil or something. It's just unbelievable at this point. Every year seems to be a greater challenge. Like he just wants to one-up himself. Like he's in a David Goggins competition to keep a winning record with a worse team every single year. What are we doing here? We're the Steelers because you draft Kenny Pickett in the 1st round last year. It feels like they've got veterans on the team, obviously guys who are still around and playing at a high level, but with the quarterback position seeming to crumble, what's the outlook for this team? Are they big spenders? Are they going to keep their money? Are they going to focus more on the draft? What do you think?
Yeah, they don't really spend a ton in free agency. They already got ahead of some business. They moved on from Mitchell Trubisky, moved on from Chuck Okorafor, which was a bizarre scenario for them. So, I think offensive line would make sense if they can attack it. Dan Moore Jr., I think, allowed the highest percent of a team's pressures in the NFL for us this past year. And he wasn't any better the year before that. So, do you keep Roderick at right tackle and try to find a left tackle that could fill in? Because last year their splashes were like Isaac Sumalo, who I thought had a good year, and was a good fit for, I guess, what they were doing. The Arthur Smith thing is fascinating, right? Do you bring in a Ryan Tannehill? Do you trade for a Justin Fields, which is what everyone is kind of talking about now? And I've said on other shows, I've heard similarly, they are going to be interested to a degree. So
in Fields, you're saying, or just any quarterback?
In Fields. Yeah, okay. But for me, though, in free agency, I would keep an eye on them at corner and safety. Patrick Peterson just was not really a playable guy last year. He even came out and said, I signed a 2-year contract. They can let me know if I'm going to stay. I wouldn't pay him what he's owed. And outside of Joey Porter Jr. and Minka Fitzpatrick, I think they need to replace every other DB position. So I know there might be a fun mock at 20 for a Terrion Arnold or a Quinion Mitchell or whatever. But I also think if they're in free agency, like a L'Jarius Sneed, if he hits the market, which I don't think he will, but a guy that can play inside out, can come on some of those.
That'll be huge for him.
Yeah, the blitzes, they love blitzing nickels and stuff like that too. So and just simming pressure up at the line. So secondary in free agency if I had to pick a spot.
Yeah. I mean, those are similar to the draft needs. We often go somewhere in the secondary or offensive line. It just continues to rotate. Which one are you taking early? Which one are you taking, more on day 2? So that just seems to be the rotation for the Steelers for sure. All right. Before we get to our next division, got to shout out our friends over at Fabric. If you got a family, you got to get them term life insurance. It's the easiest thing that you could do to protect them, make you feel good about all the financial decisions that you're making. Start a new year. It's perfect. Time to get it done so you can focus on whatever else the year has for you. It was designed by parents for parents to help you get high quality, surprisingly affordable term life insurance policies in less than 10 minutes, super quickly, super simple, all right in front of you. Fabric has flexible policies that'll fit your family's budget with quality policies like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. You can get your personalized quote in just minutes and apply whenever it is convenient for you, all online and to your schedule. You can go from start to cover in less than 10 minutes with no health exam required. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their family. Applying today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/stock exchange. That is meetfabric, MEET, fabric.com/stock exchange. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company. Not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. All right, given the directional nature of this show and the structure of it, we go to the AFC South next. I'm going to start with the team that I think has the most on the line this year, and that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. You draft Trevor Lawrence, you win the lottery drafting Trevor Lawrence in 2021, and they have done some good things. Certainly starting that era with Urban Meyer was not a good thing, but I feel like since Doug Peterson move, okay, you're going in the right direction a little bit. Last year, a lot of ups and downs, a lot more ups and downs than you want from this team, and it fills their future with uncertainty moving forward. Where do we go from here if we're the Jags? What does their free agency outlook look like? And then what are we thinking that's going to bring their team needs to when it comes to draft weekend?
Yeah, their feet should be to the fire. I frankly don't really know how Trent Baalke kept his job this offseason, but for myriad reasons. But the big one for me is you have Josh Allen, who you've now come out and said you're going to tag, who you probably should have extended last offseason for way less money than he's going to get. He had 17 and a half sacks this past year, and he was
he is. Yeah. They have no choice now. You have to 100% tag this player. You cannot do a deal with him because he has more leverage than every player who's not named Patrick Mahomes, it feels like, for the year that he's coming off of. So
yeah, and he was a classic PFF guy where it was like, I know his sack numbers weren't super high, but he had 70 pressures and like a top 15 pass rush win rate last year. And it was like, hey, Nick Bosa's about to get $34 million a year. Maybe sign Josh Allen. But anyway, so the interesting thing with them too is Calvin Ridley, as a part of his trade, there is a condition tied to it where if he signs an extension with the Jacksonville Jaguars this offseason, they're sending Atlanta a second-round pick instead of a third-round pick. If it's a tag, it would stay only a third, but that's not really at their disposal anymore. So they back themselves into this corner, and it not only impacts the Josh Allen deal, but also, I think they'll find a way to keep Calvin. They traded for him when he was going through some stuff and stuck by him, and I think he was good the second half of the year, but it doesn't make it any easier. So
hold on. How do we collude this, right? How do we get out of giving the Falcons a second round pick, but also Calvin Ridley comes back? Do we have to how far out of free agency do we have to get here? Or can he not sign with the Jags at all? How are we going to lawyer the shit out of this deal?
So I'd have to look at this specific language, but I do think. I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess if you did it after the 2024 draft, right?
That's what I'm saying.
But Calvin is not going to take the risk on his first veteran contract at 29 years old of sitting around and being like, okay, I'll just assume the Jags will earmark a big deal for me.
But what if you pinky promise?
So the pinky promise technique is an ancient storied approach in NFL free agency. I've talked to many GMs about the pinky promise approach. No, look, there are, of course, some handshake deals that happen, I guess, because a big thing, too, is the compensatory pick formula. After the draft, it no longer counts. So you probably do get some probably. You've had players before be like, if they told me they're interested in signing me only after the comp pick period and basically circle back,
right?
A classic, hashtag circle back after the draft and we'll talk ball. But I don't think you can do that with Calvin Ridley. I don't think he's So that's the thing. They got to focus on that. But the interesting one for me is Cam Robinson. Do they keep him, or are they going to say, all right, we have Anton Harrison who had a good rookie year. Walker Little can play tackle. Maybe we'll like him more at left guard, but whatever. And then are they going to go tackle again in the draft and try to save a bunch of money with Cam Robinson leaving? So that part's interesting to me. But yeah, in free agency, I would say nickel corner, Trey Hendrickson's a pending free agent. Maybe they go a different direction there. But yeah, small stuff, nothing crazy.
Yeah. No, that's their needs. Yeah, interior offensive line, maybe depending on what they do at tackle. I don't know if they have as much. Maybe Jags fans can tell me otherwise, but I don't know if they have that much flexibility to get rid of Cam Robinson because I think Walker Little's a guard. So
Yeah.
I think you got to have Harrison on one side and you got to have Cam Robinson on the other. They could certainly go interior offensive line, like even with Walker Little. I don't know how much. I don't know if it's like earth shaking confidence or um, stability that you have there. So I think interior offensive line could certainly be a move for him. And then wide receiver, I think, is kind of a sneaky one. I
Yeah.
don't know what they do in the first round, but
Yeah, because Zay Jones maybe on the way out. I could see them moving on there. Save some money. Wasn't as good as he was his first year of the deal.
mm-hmm.
So that one's interesting. It's interesting. They have like pieces I like. Like I think a healthy Tyson Campbell is a good corner. Darius Williams had a great bounce back year. Andre Cisco has been a guy I've always liked, and I think he flashed a good bit last year. It's weird. They feel like they're further away than we probably should feel about them. And obviously they collapsed. They were 8-3. They were playing good ball, but it just fell apart at the seams.
Yeah. All right. Next team. Let's move on. Let's talk about a team on the up. It's the Houston Texans. What do the Houston Texans do now that they have not just taken a step forward, but a leap forward with DeMeco Ryans, with CJ Stroud, with Will Anderson playing well, right? Like, what does this team look like moving forward?
I think you're going to see an emphasis on defensive line, and not just because it's DeMeco Ryans, but you have Jonathan Greenard, who's coming off a career year. Do you try to keep him, or do you? I keep an eye on them as like a team that would get into the like Brian Burns sweepstakes if he's a potential tag and trade candidate, or go after a Daniil Hunter type guy as like a number 2 edge on that team opposite of a Will Anderson. And then Sheldon Rankins, also a pending free agent, had a good year. Probably will get a decent chunk from somebody because everybody at that position seems to get paid a little bit if they play good ball. They played much better at the end of the season. They picked up Tyler Tart, which I loved off of waivers. But who's so talented, but just kind of has a good head on his shoulders. But I think defensive line is where they attack in free agency.
Makes sense, man. It feels like they're a team that they have the ability to put their foot on the gas, should do so, and with them not picking until, what is it, 23?
Cleveland's pick, whatever Cleveland's pick is.
Cleveland's pick, I think it's 23.
I'll pull it up for us.
That's 23.
23, correct.
I like edge rusher for them because if you're like you said, if they move on from Grenard, then I think that makes sense. Interior defensive line we often go for, but yeah, if they have the ability to attack interior defensive line in free agency, they'll probably go the opposite. And if they have the ability to take edge in free agency, they'll probably go the opposite when it comes to like interior versus edge defensive line play. So I do kind of like that strategy for them moving forward. What about the Indianapolis Colts? You're getting Anthony Richardson back. This is a team that was kind of turning the page in a couple of different position units on the team. Are they going to be big spenders? They got Michael Pittman Jr. that they got to take care of, but they have any sort of flexibility outside of that? Or is it kind of, this is the Colts roster and it's just going to be another draft class that we're going to add to it?
No, they definitely can spend, but I think first, they don't really spend a ton. I loved last year what they did with Samson Ebukam. That was kind of their one big splash, and they quietly had a really good platoon. Like Tyquan Lewis had a good year. He's a guy that's going to pop up on the free agent list. Good straight line athlete, like good burst off the line, and fit better in kind of like a rotation, like playing 400, 500 snaps. But Grover Stewart is going to be an interesting one. He's so important in that run defense. Like, we don't promote on-off splits at PFF. It's not really a good way to analyze football, and it isn't. But their run defense numbers without Grover Stewart were like comical. It was like they were the worst run defense in the NFL. Like the 6 weeks he got suspended, it was nuts. And again, it's not just him, but and some of the opponents were good running teams. But like, it was pretty stark. And he is a guy that can take on double teams and like truly change your entire front on early downs. So I think it's more about retaining their players. You mentioned Pittman, who's going to get a good deal. Grover Stewart. Kenny Moore, interesting. They have nothing at cornerback, and so maybe he stays as a vet, but he's been trying to get extended for like 2 off seasons, and they haven't been willing to do it. That's where I look for them. I think you look at these cover 3 corners that can fit with Gus Bradley. Those would be the guys I'd keep an eye on as potential targets.
Quinyon Mitchell, you are. Yeah. In Indianapolis Colt. I mean, I just think that like to a T, his exact style would be perfect for Indianapolis. So I think he's going to be I think he's going to be a big time target for him for the reasons that you mentioned. What about the Titans? A lot more turnover with the Titans, I think, over the last 2 years than I thought there was going to be. I figured that the winning window was kind of coming to an end, but I didn't think that meant, okay, that also means that Mike Vrabel's time there is going to come to an end. So it's Brian Callahan there now as the head coach. Rand Carthen, it's his second year as general manager. Anything that we maybe would learn from him over the last calendar year, or just how this team is going to operate, maybe the moves that they made, some of the decisions with the roster of playing a lot of young guys that make you feel like one way or another they're going to be more in on certain positions or maybe not in on free agency at all. What do you think with the Titans?
I think they have to do offensive line to a degree. Like we all, we're going to see Joe Alt or Olu Fashanu get mocked there on every single mock draft the next, however many odd months. And they might still do that. But Aaron Brewer is their pending free agent center, has been a starting left guard for them as well. I look at like Ezra Cleveland and, I mean, they could bring, Brewer back. Good zone offensive lineman. Robert Hunt, if he gets out of Miami, I think would be a guy they should just go gangbusters for. Like those type of players, and then maybe you add tackle. Hope to get more out of Dillard and Nicholas Petit-Frere, at tackle. Damian Lewis in Seattle, I think is quietly pretty solid in the zone game in his own right. So he's a guy I'm way too high on. I like this tape a lot. So I think offensive line is an obvious answer. DB as well. You trade Kevin Byard. I do love Amani Hooker, but Sean Murphy-Bunting, your old pal in Tampa, was basically the number one corner last year. Free agent. Don't shake your head. Christian Fulton, your old pal, your favorite player as a Buck. You told me one time.
Good buddy.
Christian Fulton pending free agent. I like Roger McCreary, but yeah. So I could see mid-tier secondary guys and then offensive line.
Yeah, wide receiver is a position that I also think is really interesting for this team in free agency specifically, because they talk about like, like this team really needs contributing wide receivers. Like in theory, they have DeAndre Hopkins, who maybe isn't what he was, but it's still DeAndre Hopkins. He can still produce for you. They have Traylon Burks as well when he is out there and he's healthy. So I don't feel there's some people who look at number 7 and say, like if Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors is there, like you gotta really consider it. And maybe they do. Maybe they ultimately do, because I think either of those guys probably wide receiver 1 on the team no matter what. But do they believe we've got some money and some high draft pick, obviously, in Burks on this team at wide receiver? Maybe you just go out and you sign a supplemental like wide receiver 3 to try to round out the room, really allow yourself to go all in on offensive tackle. That's sort of something that I look at when I look at the Titans, and those are the two needs that consistently come up for me in the first round when I'm going through mock draft exercises, and feel as though they have the ability to pick up like a really nice wide receiver 3 and maybe not break the bank, and also not feel like they have to spend number 7.
It's funny too, because like Brian Callahan, I think everyone's going to say, Brian Callahan, Bengals offensive coordinator. He probably thinks you should just build the plan out of elite wide receivers.
And that's true too. Like that might go into it.
But I was going to say, yes. However, his father is also Bill Callahan, who they just poached from Cleveland to be the offensive line coach. Right. And he's probably a classic, like, build through the trenches and figure the outside stuff out later. So it's kind of funny. Like, I think both influences are there. I could see Tyler Boyd is a pending free agent. Maybe you say, hey, he's going to be the vet that I bring from my old team that helps establish the tone. Good slot receiver. Like I said, he lost some explosiveness and some bursts this past year, but sure-handed, reliable over the middle.
No, that's a good shout out as well. Last division. We got one more division. Before we get to that, if you guys don't have a PFF subscription, you can get one right now for 30% off using the promo code 30MDS. It's obviously mock draft season, so MDS is the promo code that we're using there. You can get the fully unlocked mock draft simulator. You can get everything when it comes to the free agency tools. You get all the premium stats, everything. It's not just draft related stuff that you'd be paying for. You get the entire PFF subscription, whatever subscription that you're buying. You just get 30% off using 30MDS promo code at PFF.com. So AFC West is the last team here. Did we do the Chiefs first or last? Let's do them first. Let's do the Chiefs first. A couple other teams that might need be a little bit more desperate, get a little bit more interesting here. You mentioned L'Jarius Sneed a couple of times. Chris Jones, I think, is ranked number 1, right, on your free agency power rankings. And so he didn't do his agent any favors when he said, we're back 100%, no doubt about it. But okay, what's the Chiefs' situation here? They said that this was one of the least talented teams that Patrick Mahomes has ever won it with, and there's some big names that are up for free agency. What do you think this team is doing here?
Yeah, That was a great tweet from his agent. That's classic. The OG is Mike Evans, like offering to take a pay cut, like coming off of a boat in Tampa with Tom Brady, like stumbling and bumbling in the background with who was the backup QB who was like keeping him upright?
It was Ryan Griffin.
Ryan Griffin, yeah, who
Ryan
I
Griffin.
mixed with the tight end every single time. Anyway, So both Ryan Griffin, not Brian Griffin from Family Guy, different guy. So
Ryan Griffin is a hero in Tampa. Okay, I think it took Ryan Griffin 5 years, 6 years to take one regular season snap for the team. Like he was just always clearly QB3. He was there to cash a check, to put on pads, and like to do literally nothing else. Throw a couple passes around, just get paid. I mean, he's a hero. He's truly an inspiration to everybody. Didn't have to take hits, but cashed an NFL check, won a Super Bowl.
That's the dream.
It really is the dream. So anyways, Kansas City.
Yeah, some Alex Moran. He's Tampa's Alex Moran.
Yeah, he really is, actually. Shout out Blue Mountain State.
Yeah, shout out BMS. So I knew you would get that reference. I've never been more confident in someone getting a reference about BMS. So anyway, Chiefs, I think you're looking at ancillary receiver. Like I think a Darnell Mooney in Kansas City is a guy that everyone's like, oh, remember this guy had 1,000 yards as a second-year player? I love that fit. I know Matt Nagy pounded the table for him in the draft that year, is obviously now in Kansas City as the OC. So maybe pounded the table. Maybe the whole building liked him. But anyway, that one makes a ton of sense to me. Those type of players, they're like good separators, shifty players, guys that can make players miss in space. When healthy, that is Darnell Mooney. So that is interesting to me. And then, I think for them, like you also look at defensive line. We talk about Chris Jones, who I agree probably is back, but Amenahu now tears his ACL. Mike Dana is a pending free agent. They've obviously invested a lot there. I was happy to see another one of #my guys, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, with a nice tackle for loss in the bowl.
He did.
People forgot about FAU. But anyway, I can see more there because they're just so loaded at DB and linebacker right now. But I think they honestly realize, well, let's just have Spags and an elite defense, and then we'll spend on O-line. Sure, we'll protect Patrick, but like I mentioned, Mooney. Like I don't like people are going to mock like Mike Evans, and like I don't think they're in that market. Like they talked to D-Hop and Odell last year, and both guys ended up signing for a ton of money. And I bet Kansas City was offering like 1 year $5 million flyers. They don't think they need to go too aggressive there. So yeah. Secondary receiver, and then I think D-line's interesting for them.
Okay. All right. I like that strategy. I think I like that strategy. I think that's good for the Chiefs. What about the Raiders? I don't know. A lot of flexibility on this team. We look at corner as a constant need for this team in the first round, potentially interior defensive line as well. Quarterback is sort of the ultimate wild card of what are you doing there. But for the Raiders, it feels like you're probably either rolling with Aiden O'Connell or you're getting super aggressive to draft one. I don't really know if this team's going to be in like the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes, but maybe I'm wrong. What do you think about the Raiders situation?
Well, they just cleared an extra $11.25 million this morning with the Jimmy Garoppolo thing. You and I were talking pre-show, which is I'm not making a joke. It's massive. They can void those guarantees now, and I think AP comes in as a defensive head coach, and they have some pieces on offense. I think interior defensive line, like they should make it hard for Cincinnati to bring back DJ Reader, or make it hard for Seattle to bring back Leonard Williams, or make it impossible for Miami to bring back Christian Wilkins or Madubuike to Baltimore. Like be very in on all of those players. And then I wonder if Antonio Pierce is a guy that's like, get me a really good linebacker, like get me Patrick Queen and let me mold this guy. Like he can add to our pass rush. Like I talked about, and he's a good all-around football player now. Like, yeah, you could argue, do you want to spend like top of market linebacker for the Raiders? Like, maybe not. But if you had Byron Murphy in the draft, or go Kirk Cousins or do something else at quarterback, that defense was like really good the second half of the year, like really, really good. And I think that could be the angle they play is like we have good weapons. The other angle for me is their center, right guard, and right tackle, all pending free agents. So I think they'll be in those markets.
Dude, and the backups. Grasu's a free agent. Brandon Parker's a free agent. Like,
wait, Hronis Grasu was on the Raiders this past year?
I think so.
It's Sabrina Ionescu's husband. True story.
Really?
Oh yeah. Wow. Bears legend. Bears legend.
True. Yeah. Bears legend. It's true.
Yeah. Oh,
it's
yeah.
true.
Oh, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So he's
Okay.
the
noted. Well, he's out of there. So, tough.
Yeah. So, no, that's a good point. Offensive line, interior offensive line, because I love Colton Miller. I think Dylan Parham has made some plays and come on, but or Thayer Munford too. Like they've seen some flashes from those young pieces, but I think they need to keep adding at those spots.
All right, what about the Broncos? We'll save the Chargers for last.
Yeah.
Broncos, I feel like no one knows. So if anybody knows, maybe you will know, because the giant cloud looming is them basically telling Russell Wilson to take a hike in December. But it's like, because that's the ultimate question. That's really what I want to ask you here is, with Russell Wilson, what is the flexibility? Like you say, like, oh, we're going to bench this guy, we're moving on. I basically thought he is move on from a bowl in his contract. So, like, what are we doing here? Sean Payton's crazy, and we know he's just going to hit the gas at all times. And if something needs to be changed, he's going to change it. But this felt like the one thing that Sean Payton couldn't change. So is this more flexible than we think? Is Russell Wilson really out of there? And then if that's the case, what's the aftermath for it?
Yeah, he's definitely gone. I don't know about trade. I don't know who would move assets for that contract. Like, I think he's going.
No way.
Yeah,
who is doing? Look, we have so many QB needy teams. Maybe somebody entertains it, but at this contract,
there's no chance. There's no chance. No, you're bringing on a massive $37 million guarantee that kicks in for 2025 if you're bringing in Russell Wilson. Like, this isn't. Their decision's not even about next year. It's about if he's on the roster on the 5th day of this upcoming season, then he's locked in for the following year too. The interesting thing there, though, is that before the breakdown of that relationship where we had like kind of battles in the media and all that, I did think there was a pathway forward of them saying, okay, look, work with us on a revised deal. Like, someone else might trade for like a 2-year, $50 million. I know it sounds crazy, but I try to like forget. Russell Wilson wasn't like unplayably bad last year. And if you're like, okay, you're not in the Kirk sweepstakes. All right, 2 years, 50 for Russ with 30 mil guaranteed, whatever. That's still less than a Derek Carr. It'll be less than what Kirk Cousins gets. It'll be less.
All of a sudden we're talking like Atlanta's probably in on that, right? At that point,
right. It's just you have to be willing to work with Denver to like read and it does help them, and he might not want to help them at this point. So like that's the interesting angle to it. But yeah, I don't know. I think he'll get cut regardless. He will not be there. So I think they're a team that not enough people are talking about in the Kirk conversation because Sean Payton's just not patient. Like, Sean Payton just doesn't want to wait around. He doesn't care. He'll tell the cap guys there, who I'm a fan of, to figure it out and just say, like, make it work. I'm Jon Snow in Game of Thrones with George Payton, who I think can draft good players. So yeah, I think for them, they are just like last year with Zach Allen and stuff. Like, they're going to make a couple splashes. Number 2 corner is huge for them. Outside of Patrick Surtain, they struggled at corner last year. And then Lloyd Cushenberry is the big pending free agent question at center. But I don't know if they can pay him because you have Quinn Miners is going to get a massive deal at guard this offseason, I assume. The beautiful belly. That is Quinn Miners. Like, he was incredible. He's one of our highest graded guards in the NFL this past year.
Sure, yeah.
So anyway, they'll pick their spots, but they're like you said, no one knows what they're going to do because Sean Payton just has a cup of coffee and something comes to him, and then he just calls the GM and says, "Make this happen," and they do. It's a beautiful thing.
It's to me the most fascinating part of this offseason. There's a lot of really big storylines. I don't mean to like step on any of the other ones, but like, the battle between Sean Payton and being told no is going to have the biggest ripple effects because, like you said, like what reason does Russell Wilson have to work with Denver?
It's a true David and Goliath story. There is none. Like, there is none. He probably wants, right? Yeah, because he could basically be like, no, cut me. And then like he gets all that money still, right? I mean, there's no, especially if he would be taking much less anyways, he could just tell him, no, cut me, F you. He certainly could. It's interesting, but the only reason why I would say that you could do it, or I thought he could have done it, is more of like an optics angle of the idea of,
Sure.
because
Yeah.
if he does get cut, there are offsets. He's owed 30, like I said, 37, 39 million, whatever it is, for 2024. I think it's $39 million. And there would be offset language there. So anything he was scheduled to make would be offset by, or whatever he made from a new team would offset that number. And I don't think anyone's going to beat that number, even on multiple years, like not going to top that number necessarily on a free agent deal. If you trade him, though, so for that reason, it's like, does Russ want us to say he's playing on a 1 year, $10 million deal? Like, that just looks so like, oh, this guy's on like a Dalton deal. Like, it's, this guy's making, Taylor Heineke cash. Like, I don't think he wants that. Whereas if he plays the game and works with them, like I said, then you say, oh yeah, he's on 2 years, 50. It's kind of a bridge deal, and like, what? That's the one angle. But yeah, I'm with you. I think he wants to just stick it to him.
No, that's good. That's good context. I wasn't thinking about that, but that is good to shout out. Last team, it is the Los Angeles Chargers. Joe Ortiz, the new general manager in town there, spent over 20 years with the scouting department with the Baltimore Ravens. Jim Harbaugh back in the NFL now is the head coach. The Chargers are very interesting. We went through the Fix Your Franchise episode with the Chargers, and there's a lot up in the air with guys who are either free agents or could be cut. Like, Joey Bosa could get cut and they save a lot of money, and he's been unreliable and hurt a lot over the last couple of years. Mike Williams, same thing, been hurt. You can cut him, save a lot of money. Khalil Mack is a free agent, right? And in theory, you'd probably want to bring Khalil Mack back. Does Khalil Mack want to be back? No. Probably in the twilight of his career wants to go to a team that's going to have a better chance at the postseason. So are you losing Khalil Mack no matter what as well? Those are three pretty big losses for your team right there if they end up happening. So that's not even getting into the rest of the roster. What's your outlook look like for the Chargers? Are we kind of crazy for thinking that? Like, no, they're not going to move on from these guys. They're not going to cut these guys. Or what do you think about the Chargers? What could happen this offseason?
So they don't have a choice. They are comfortably in the worst cap situation in the NFL. It's actually a beautiful way to end the show, talking about the two teams that come in second to last and last, the one I'm about to tell you. So if the Chargers restructured every contract on their roster, they would still be $24 million over the cap.
Jeez.
Yeah. The next worst team is Denver. If they did the same thing, a simple restructure of every contract, they'd have $20 million in cap space. So they'd be the Chargers are $45 million behind the next worst team in terms of just the amount of space they can create through simple restructures. Now, of course, you can extend guys. You can obviously outright cut players. You can add void years, which is not a simple restructure, but a more complicated restructure. However,
Telesco Masterclass.
Raiders GM legend. You put it on a tee. Maybe I was nice the whole first hour.
I didn't make you say it. I was going to say it. You don't have to say it. Yeah, I'm just saying. Masterclass.
I hope it does well. All best wishes to the Raiders.
Of course.
Anyway, what a hire for Las Vegas.
I can hope he does well, and I'm still very shocked that he got another job.
It's perplexing.
Immediately, I should say.
Immediately, yeah. And it was like, we needed an experienced GM. It's like, there other ones exist. They interviewed one guy who was a former GM. Like, I don't know if they knew other ones. Maybe it's because he was in the AFC West. They were like, yeah, that guy. Like, he's been a GM for a long time. Anyway, see now we're just going down a whole.
No, look, we're good.
Shout out Tommy T. Shout out the Raiders. Love you. Go team. Yeah, they have to make these tough decisions. Mack is not – no one's paying Khalil Mack $23.25 million. As incredible as he was this past year, the year prior, he was not very good. He's going to be 33, 34 years old. You mentioned Bosa.
Get up there in age.
Right. You mentioned Bosa is interesting. Those two guys have a $75 million combined cap hit. Like, they were not playing at that level over some of the last 3 years. And then Mike Williams, $32 million cap hit, coming off the torn ACL. Like, I would say two of those three players are probably not on the Chargers in week one, if I had to guess, right? So what they do in free agency, I think they'll try to get like a early down running back because Jim Harbaugh wants to pound the rock. I actually put in an article. I love this thought I had of them adding J.K. Dobbins, because the last time Jim Harbaugh saw J.K. Dobbins in the flesh, he had like 290 yards and four touchdowns. in an Ohio State versus Michigan game, and Jim Harbaugh, like that's been like playing over in his head every night as he lays on his pillow for the last 5 years.
That is something that actually is a factor for some of these signings. He's like, yeah, I watched him in person absolutely cook my ass one time.
And I couldn't stop him.
We got to get this dude on the team. So it's not that far fetched. It's actually a good shout out there.
Yeah. And they're like, Jim, this guy's from Stanford. He hasn't played in 15 years. It's like, I don't care. We need him. Like this guy cooked me at Cal. It's like, Jim, he's 45 years old. It's like, but don't worry, I'll figure that out. But yeah, so I think you're going to get like an early down runner there because obviously Eckler's a pending free agent, and they've said nice things. I don't think Harbaugh wants like that skill set. I think he wants a bruiser, one cut, get up field, and just whatever, make guys miss or bowl them over. But yeah, they don't have flexibility to do much of anything else. I am a believer in Jim Harbaugh. 2024, I think is going to be kind of tough, and then 2025, I think right away they'll be fun.
Yeah, I like it. I like that. I like that projection there. There we go. That's those are all the AFC teams, and if you put these last two podcasts together, that's every team in the NFL. Let us know what you thought in the comment section. Is the best way to do it. Any of the projections that Brad had and the ideas that we had in free agency or the draft, and let us know just your strategies overall. We would love to hear from you, no matter what team it is. Shout out what you would like to see your favorite team do in free agency, and then give us a little draft shout out as well. Hey, get this guy, get this position, and then focus on this position in the draft. We'd love to hear from you. This is a community. It's not just a podcast. Best way to do that in the comment section, youtube.com/@NFL Stock Exchange. If you are audio only, at Tampa Bay Trey, at PFF_Brad on X, formerly known as Twitter. Brad is not on Instagram because he lives a great life, really separated from social media. I am an addict. I am chronically online, so I am on Instagram, same handle, at Tampa Bay Trey. The next show that we have on this channel will be in beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana, for the 2024 NFL Combine. Connor and I will be back with you. We'll have another in-person podcast, and we're going to do a lot of like reactionary stuff. In years past, we've done some preview podcasts when it comes to the All-Star Bowls and like the Combine, things like that. We didn't do as much of that this year just because we felt like doing reactions and kind of what the performances and everything meant is going to be more valuable to you guys. And we're just trying to create the most valuable NFL draft channel that you guys have when it comes to learning things and what it means in the context, how it changes stuff, all that good stuff. Brad, my friend, thank you so much for joining me these last couple episodes, man. This is a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, and I'll try to be in the background, like vibing in Indy, throw in some hot takes, maybe just filter some hot takes through. Dude, we should have a full live half hour about Dameon Pierce's bench press at the Combine a couple years ago.
We could have. I think that was our social guy, Zach Tantillo, was like, hey, we need some like social stuff that we're going to put up, whatever. Or maybe it was for this channel. I can't remember. And the very first one that I did, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to talk about Dameon Pierce's bench press, actually. Yeah. So I talked about that for like 30 to 60 seconds. But it's funny. Connor and I did our one show that we did at Super Bowl Media Week. And a bunch of the comments, I didn't even realize this, a bunch of the comments were just shouting out the people who were walking behind us.
I love it.
They were just like, oh, this dude's eating a sandwich. Oh, I listened to that person's podcast, like all that kinds of stuff. So you need to do that, man. You need to like pull a prank on us and just walk by all the time and be doing something different every time. Okay. Like wear sunglasses one time, put on a giant jacket another time, constantly be on the phone and like you could be like screaming. You can do like 2 phones it.
Oh.
You got to troll us. You got to throw in some Easter eggs like that. Beautiful. But I'm very excited to see you in Indianapolis once again. Very excited for the Combine. Excited to give you guys some great information as we see everything that happens from the drills, the interviews. It is truly my favorite event that happens in the football calendar. And Brad is not just a genius when it comes to free agency stuff. He's also elite when it comes to hearing things around the league. He's a very likable guy. He's got friends. We get it. Stop bragging about it. But we're going to have Brad back on the podcast very soon after Indianapolis to round up all the rumors and, hey, what's this team going to do in the draft? What are we thinking? So we'll definitely get to that as well. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That is Brad Spielberger. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. We will see you in Indianapolis next week.